Now, should the Elgin Marbles be returned to Greece? The former Chancellor George Osborne, who's now chairman of the British Museum, among his several other jobs, has said there is a deal to be done with Greece. The Parthenon marbles were taken from Greece to Britain early in the 19th century, and since 1817, they've been in the British Museum. Liz Truss told GBNews this week that she does not support loaning the antiquities to Greece, let alone giving them back. To discuss this, I'm joined now by the archaeologist Mario Trabucco Della Torretta. Mario, great to have you with us. What's your view? Should the Elgin Marbles be given back to Greece? Have the Brits got to give them up?
No, not in my opinion. I think the Prime Minister is quite right in actually saying that we are not interested in giving them back. The former Chancellor, George Osborne, said that there is a deal to be done, but this can be interpreted in many possible ways. And I'm not pretending to talk for him on the interpretation of what he means. What my view is that basically the repatriation request by the Greeks is a bogus claim. And by this, what I mean is that a parliamentary commission looked at the circumstances of our acquisition of the Elgin Marbles in 1816, and they were the closest you can get to the actual facts. So even looking at it right now, we wouldn't be able to do any better. But even so, the circumstances are so complex, so articulated, that even the Greeks have decided that a legal challenge is not the way to go, and they dropped it in 2014. So they are the first to recognize that there is no point in saying that the marbles were acquired illegally, and yet they keep saying it, which is something that I find utterly disconcerting. Another of these lies that get spread around in this debate is that Greece had no voice at the time, and obviously they were under occupation by an external force. Now, Greece, and Athens in particular, were an integral part of the Ottoman Empire for 380 years by the time Elgin was there. Now, how long does it take for an occupation to become recognized? It was internationally recognized as a sovereign territory of the Sublime Porte, that is the seat of the Ottoman Sultan. So Lord Elgin got a full authorization. Actually, got two authorizations, because there's two firmans. One, it was a little bit more limited, allowed them to actually draw and make the molds and the plaster casts, and then they got another one that actually gave them the right to do excavations around the fundamentals of the temple, and to actually take any pieces of stone with inscriptions and figures. And now I'm quoting the Italian text of the only surviving translation of the Firman. Again, they go, but why there is an Italian translation? It doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. First of all, because the Italian was the lingua franca, the common speak of all foreign peoples in the Ottoman Empire at the time. And second of all, we must not forget that the entire equipe of agents of Lord Elgin were actually recruited in Italy. They all spoke Italian. So they needed a document that was made for them, essentially, to tell them what their rights were actually dealing with the soldiers of the voivode, the military commander of the city.
Let me ask you this, Mario, if I may. You've given us some incredible background information there, really, really interesting, and you're clearly very knowledgeable. But just in practical terms, would it damage these very heavy, obviously ancient artefacts? Would it risk damaging them to transport them back to Greece? The British Museum is obviously a world-class museum. It does a great job of looking after them. I think everybody acknowledges that.
I agree.
Is there a risk in the transportation? And I hesitate to say this, but is there concern that they wouldn't be as well looked after in Greece? Or is that an unfair thing to say?
I wouldn't go as far as saying that there is concern about their well-being were they ever to be transported back to Greece. And Greece is now a superpower when it comes to scientific production and the study of ancient Greek civilization. So that I've no concern there. Whatever is kept in the Acropolis Museum now is extremely well looked after, even if I myself don't find the Acropolis Museum a particularly appealing museum, both from an aesthetic and a scientific point of view. I think it's a hugely ideological museum, ideologically charged in the way things are exhibited there. But in any case, there is not concern about their well-being. The concern is, should we take them away from the British Museum in the first place? My answer is no. First of all, because the claim is spurious, as I said. And second of all, because they are part of our identity, just as well as they are of the Greeks. I quote you Isocrates, one of the best and most famous orators of ancient Athens. He said, Greeks are not the ones that share a common blood. Greeks are the ones that share a common culture. And we are all Greeks.
Mario Trabucco, Della, Torretta, we have to leave it there. You are an archaeologist. You're a world authority on the Elgin Marbles, and we've much appreciated your contribution this evening here on GB News. Justin and Andrew are still with me just for the last couple of minutes. So basically, the 7th Earl of Elgin, he took the marbles and he brought them back to the UK because he said he got permission from the head of the Ottoman Empire, and the Greeks at the time were under occupation, under the rule of the Ottomans. Are you buying it, Justin?
Well, yeah, frankly, if you start shifting it all back, where do you stop? And you end up actually...
But they were made in Greece, just to be devil's advocate. They're from the Acropolis of Athens.
In which case, I'll get the Stonehenge and send it back to Wales. Well, what stage do you actually say, no, that's enough?
I was there as part of my Mediterranean...
But you were there when they were taken.
I was there.
You're wearing well.
I'm wearing incredible. I had a tough paper round. I was there a few days ago as part of my Mediterranean thing, and I was shown round.
Oh, at the Parthenon?
I was at the Parthenon, and they said to me that they had written to the British Museum and said they would look ideal next to the Aegean Sea, and apparently the British Museum wrote back and said, yes, and that's why we've painted the wall blue. So they wrote, the ongoing spat is a bit...
That's banter, isn't it?
A little bit of banter, but you're right, it's so politically charged. But they have all sorts of glorious things. But to Justin's point, if you start looking at that, the whole world is going to be shifting stuff around.
Well, imagine if you start... We're best will of the world. Do you want to actually shift vital stuff back to Iraq and places like that, which are unstable, and you probably find...
Yeah, but Greece isn't. It's a superpower in terms of looking after these things. It's a superpower,
but then once you start with that, then you end up with other things going to other areas of the world which aren't so stable.
What do you think, Liam? What do you think?
I'm impartial. I can't possibly say what I think. And on that bombshell, Andrew Eborn, thank you so much for being here on Neil Oliver Live. I'm not on Neil Oliver. And Justin Urquhart-Stewart. It's been absolutely fabulous.
My pleasure.
A romp through the events of this week with a bit of Elgin Marble flourish to finish. That's all from me for this evening. My thanks to all my guests.